Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Levitt-Keaty. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tiffany Fikes here this week with my amazing co-hosts, Kimber and Wendy. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, welcome.
Hey, ladies.
Hi.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, good to see you guys again.
Always.
You too.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this one because I feel like it's an area that I struggle with a lot, and I think a lot of other people do too.
Yeah, we are going to be talking today about kind of what to say when you think, I don't know what to say. I know a lot of us, we want to make YouTube videos or we want to post on social media. And I mean, yes, there's that whole I don't want to look at myself on camera maybe. But I know the thing that holds most people back is you turn on the camera and then you're just blank. What am I going to say? What am I supposed to say? And today we are going to talk about how to create content easily that converts people to get into action. So I'm super excited about that. Has anybody else on this call ever struggled with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Daily. I know, right? My team's always okay, come on. My marketing folks what are you doing? It's not consistent. You're not posting them up. And then I'm well, what are we going to talk about? What do I have to talk about that people would want to hear me talk for 2 or 3 minutes on a short form, long form, a reel, going live, all those things. So I'm excited because I got my notes ready for this one.
Well, and it makes sense. If you're a successful real estate agent, you probably have never had really any training in writing content. And so thinking about there can be a very easy framework. And that's what we're going to give you today is a framework for what to say when you don't know what to say on your videos. Because I actually went to film school, so I actually had a little bit of training. And I know, Wendy, you had some training, too, in writing.
It's true. I was a journalism major.
There you go. So you know how to write. You know how to get to the point. You know all those things.
I'm married to a writer.
You are.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you a really simple framework that is going to help you write quick content that you can turn the camera on. And then all you have to worry about is just seeing yourself on camera. And we can all get over that, because we're seeing ourselves on camera so much more nowadays. But it is a tool called the 6 Ps. That is perspective, problem, pain, possibility, plan, and pleasure. Don't worry, we're going to deep dive on all of those, but let me go through it one more time so you can hear it one more time. You write your content starting with perspective, problem, pain, possibilities, plan, and pleasure. And so we're going to walk through all of those, but you can use this for your YouTube videos, your social media videos. You can even use it to write emails that you want people to take action. And you can use it with your kids too. Just a conversation at the dinner table.
I love it. And what I loved about this is that for my favorite co-pilot today is my robot, right? My ChatGPT. We treat them very well because we don't know what robots are going to do to us in the future. And this gives you
I love how you're mitigating that
framework.
Risk, Kimber. You're such a risk mitigator.
Be nice to your robot. That's right. And so this gives more context. I do. Good morning. I say good morning.
Oh.
I do. So what I loved about this is that it also, for those of you that are looking at prompts and how do I really leverage my time and thinking, think about this framework because it's going to give you the detail that you need so that if you are able to plug this in, if you're using that Copilot to help expedite and just think through, we're going to give you the framework to help you make it that much more effective.
Yeah, well, maybe read one so our listeners can understand how it should sound.
Okay, so if you think about, and Kimber will hit this in a second on who are you writing to, but niche content is some of the best content online right now. You're looking at what are people YouTube searching? What are people they don't want to hear just content for people kind of like them. They want to hear content for them, like it was written for them. So being very specific. So let me give you an example of you're talking to your past clients. And if you were like getting really niche and going to send this out to a few different people in your database, maybe it's people who bought their home over 3 years ago with you. And your whole purpose is to get them to think about selling. So here's what it might sound like. You know, if you're anything like me, I know that a lot can change in 3 years. Maybe you've added a couple kids, and what once felt like your dream home, it may actually be bursting at the seams now. And yet, the idea of selling feels exhausting. Where would you go? Is it even a smart move right now? You could start wondering or try to figure it out on your own. But what if you had a step-by-step plan that made the process smooth, strategic, and even exciting? That's what I offer my clients. If you're even thinking about selling in the next year, let's do a 20-minute equity check. No pressure, just some perspective. You might be closer than you think to the home and the space that fit the season you're in right now. Comment below, DM me, whatever that call to action is on whatever video content you're using. Doesn't that sound like makes you kind of lean in?
Yeah, for sure. Especially if that's actually me, right? Which is what you're talking about, which is how do we get more niche content? Like if I'm in that situation, if I'm had a kid or two since I bought my last home, yeah, for sure. I'm for sure going to lean in.
Well, and you can very often think, oh, I need to speak to the general audience. And the reality is when you speak generally, everybody tunes out. Like, yeah, Wendy, this doesn't speak to your stage of life right now. And so you would zone out. But Kimber may think, you know what, those boys are a lot bigger than what they used to be. And so maybe I do
probably
need
need a
space,
second fridge at this point.
Right.
Oh, I have one. I'm like on the third.
Yeah,
at
all
this
these
point.
teenagers. Yeah, all these teenage boys. Just wait like 5 more years. You're literally gonna be broke.
Already.
So Wendy leans out because it's not for her, but Kimber leans in and listens all the way to the end, where if you just state generally, everybody kind of zooms out and moves on.
You know, another hack for you guys, when you're listening to the podcast, you can also check out wherever you're downloading it, and there will be a transcript. So if you love what Tiffany just said, and you're like, you know what, that sounded great, just go on, you'll be able to pull the transcript, and you can actually pull that section right out and plug it in, and you've got your first one ready to go. So we're going to walk you through in case you're ready for more of those. And the first step is to get crystal clear on some really basic questions, right? Who are you? You heard Tiffany say, if you're like me, right? Who are they? A lot can change in 3 years. So you are addressing a demographic of people that maybe have been in their home for a few years and life has maybe changed when they moved in. So who are they? Who are you to them? Who are you to them? Why should they be listening to you, right? So being able to define this step-by-step process, right? Tiffany talked about, hey, I'm an expert here. I do this. I help people. Let's talk about this equity check-in. And who are they to you, right? What's that connection that you all have? So I think defining that really easy, just answering those questions in your audience is a really powerful first step.
Okay, so once you have all of those questions answered, and this isn't something you're going to tell ChatGPT this if you're using ChatGPT to create this, but this isn't something that necessarily you're going to write into the email. It's just getting yourself really clear. Like, I want to talk to people who have owned their homes, who worked with me in the past, who trust me. And I want them to think about selling.
This is so good because, you always want to start with a problem. And the reality is, your customers and your clients are coming to you with problems all the time, right? And so if you're thinking about what should I do, what should I post on social media, well, take one of the problems that your customers are coming to you, and then you ask yourself these simple questions, and that's how you create this niche content that Tiffany's talking about. So start with the problem and then ask yourself the question, and that'll really help you. Because I think sometimes when we're doing social media, it's like, God, what do I do? What do I talk about?
I think, when you also look at the market, for us, nationwide, we're up 33%. In the DC market, we're up almost 40%, right, in listings. So if I were also looking at that, I might also reverse engineer it, right? I've got a problem in that I have a listing that can't move. And so instead of telling everybody I have this incredible listing in a neighborhood, build your avatar in a,
compliant, whatever the words are, compliant way.
Compliant. Thank you. That's right. Fair housing. Don't paint too clear of a picture, but know who you're talking to, right? And so that you could actually take what Tiffany just gave as an example and have a problem. Hey, I've got a property. And instead of just being like everybody else and saying, I've got this incredible property, paint the picture of the person that you're speaking to. Speak directly to the person that you think is an ideal profile for a buyer for that property.
Well, and I think that's so smart. And as we're using AI to write our MLS listing descriptions, telling ChatGPT, hey, here's who I think the buyer of this home could be, they could write it in such a way that it would just attract them to this property. It's really smart.
Okay, so let's jump into our P's. Number 1 is perspective. So perspective is all about...
You just said jump into our P? That's what it sounded like.
Well,
just a moment for that. Let's have a moment for
Wendy, bathroom humor.
The middle school boy on this call.
I know. As Tiffany and I, both moms to middle school boys, I was like, oh, this is every day of my life.
Jump into the first P. Okay. That's what you said.
Jumping into the framework. How about that? Let's jump into the framework. So the first P is perspective. And what this is the contextual setup. This is it's meeting your listener, viewer, the person you want to reach, that you know where they are. Because people they respond when they feel understood. So think about this as joining a conversation already happening in a client's mind. So what are buyers, if we use that example, like what are your clients or what are buyers already thinking, assuming, or believing? So that's the perspective piece of this. And so, first-time home buyers, or maybe, Kimber, you're a great example of you're trying to market one of your listings to a certain kind of buyer. What are they thinking? Well, maybe they're thinking a certain thing about that neighborhood, or, maybe they're thinking about the interest rates. So, simple lines like buying a home is exciting, but it's also really confusing. That sets the perspective that, somebody is literally watching that video thinking that in their heads. And so they are immediately drawn in. It's kind of like mind reading. So that's what you want to do with this first sentence is what could be true about that who that you're talking about that we've already established, and then acknowledge it. So if it's like a seller, everyone thinks spring is the best time to sell, but what if that's not always true? You've acknowledged a thought they've had in their head, and you're calling that out. So you're creating curiosity, empathy, you're connecting in your first sentence with whoever is out there. So that's what perspective does, is it says, I know what you're thinking.
And I think you address in these the duality that's often happening, right? That we think, oh my God, this is such an exciting time, you're buying a house. But it's also really overwhelming, and it's confusing, and it's scary, right? It's all these things. And so I think picking one and addressing both the positive thing, but also the thing that doesn't often get said, but is often felt is really powerful. Because now you're helping somebody feel seen. You're naming that emotion. It's really powerful.
That's so good, Kimber. And then after perspective, you want to do your second P. You want to jump into your second P. I'm sorry.
This is going to go the whole episode.
Sorry, you said it. You want to just jump into that second P, and that second P is going to be problem. Okay, so you're creating the antagonist. So once they feel seen, you really want to zoom in on the friction, the practical issue or challenge that they're facing. Just lean into the tension. Don't avoid it. I think sometimes we want to just avoid all the bad stuff, but we really want to lean into it. And then ask yourself the question, what's the external challenge standing in their way? Okay, what's that outside force standing in their way? People don't want what you're selling. They're attracted to our knowledge of the problem that they're facing. Right? They don't necessarily want us to sell them something, but they do want to be with an expert that knows what they're talking about. So, for instance, with buyers, the protagonist really is you're facing higher interest rates than you've expected. For sellers, it's like you've got equity you want to move, but you're worried that you might not be able to sell your house, and you might end up having to move twice or worse with 2 mortgages. So this is a real obstacle. This isn't like some little something or other. And this builds credibility because most likely, from the first P, they've got that perspective, which is, they've already been thinking of the problem at hand. So when you name that problem, they feel seen, right? And so it gives you tons of credibility. You're not just skipping right to the solutions. You're spending time on that obstacle. So Yeah. And then specificity wins. Yeah. It's a pro tip for you. So saying the market is crazy is vague. But saying every time you check Zillow, the home you bookmarked is already pending makes it real. Something like that.
Yeah. I love that. And sometimes it's hard for us, right, as salespeople. Like, we want to release people from the pain and quickly. Like, I gave you the problem, but I don't really want to talk about it for too long. I want to jump to how I'm going to put the cape on and save you. And I think part of what these do is actually walk you through it.
Yeah. They feel like you're going to back away.
Yeah, that's right. Hold space for it.
Yeah.
So our third P that we're jumping into is taking us further into that, right? So we're talking about the pain.
Sorry.
I know. Here we go. The cost of that problem, right? So we're going to actually go even deeper, which is, again, when we want to pull back, we're going to go deeper from the head to the heart and dig into the true emotional cost of, like, right, staying stuck, not taking action, and what the cost of that could be. So you're asking yourself, as you're putting together this content, how does this problem feel to them, right? So you're taking that empathetic lens. It's not manipulative, it's empathetic. And you're really trying to create that emotional connection. So for a buyer, right, you may be saying, you may wonder if you'll ever be able to afford a home because the listing inventory is going up, but the prices are actually staying stable. And so you may wonder, in this environment, am I ever going to be able to afford a home? If you're a seller, right, you're watching every day, there's a new listing that pops on the market and nothing's going under contract, right? So you may lie awake wondering, did you completely miss the window? Or worse, if you're ever going to sell and end up at a place that you hate just because it's the only option in the market. Right. So really walking them through that pain piece. And if you're reading, like, it's going to feel like, we always say you've got the people who are sitting in church and you're like, oh my God, it was like the pastor was talking just to me. Right. He was literally reading everybody's minds in the church that day because they were addressing the reality of what people were feeling and naming it. And that's what's going to help you build that connection and become the right person for them to do business with.
And that's what you've done this whole time. Perspective is saying what they're thinking. Problem is what they're facing, acknowledging what they're facing. Pain, what is really the cost of that problem staying in their life. All of that is relational building. And most people don't do it, which is why this works, is you spend so much time, quote unquote, seeing the person, just acknowledging their reality, where most other people have already jumped into solving. And only just now, the next one, we're going to deal with possibilities. So this is appreciating the landscape of all the different possibilities. This may be a few items you want to talk about, like here are a few different ways that this could go, or maybe you're just offering some hope. Like, what if there was a better way? What if you didn't have to feel that way anymore? So this is almost like the invitation to imagine themselves taking action, which is the first step to having anyone actually take action, is for them to imagine themselves doing it. So a buyer version, you may continue going to open houses and just looking at houses with other people. You may decide to give the search up completely. Or if you're serious about buying a home in the next 12 months, you may decide to get the support of a professional realtor. Like, there's no judgment, or I guess be careful that there's no judgment in your voice on any of those choices, because it builds your credibility of these are all viable options for you. Later, you're going to help them make a plan and you're going to see that, like, the right step possibly for them. But that's my one tip, is when you're offering a landscape of possibilities, make sure you're not you could continue going to open houses and just looking at houses, or you may decide to just give the thing up all completely. But if you're serious about buying a house, like, you hear how that delivery is totally different. It makes them feel dumb for thinking that they want to go to open houses. And you do not want to do that in your content, because if they are thinking that's the right plan, you want them to feel good about their decision making, because then when they decide to meet with you, they'll feel good about that too. So a seller version, whether you're considering upsizing, downsizing, or staying put, there are real opportunities worth exploring. Acknowledge the possibilities. And this is the kind of that turning point in your content, like the hook. You've told them what's wrong. You've acknowledged the problem. You know how it feels. But wait, it's kind of like that, but wait, there's more moment. What if it was possible? This is also a way that you could put client testimonials into your content if whatever you're making is right. Like Susan and John felt the same way, and this is what happened when they listed with us, or, when they decided to take the leap into a 6% interest rate after they'd had a 3% interest rate. It's just an opportunity. If you want to tell a client story, can go right in there.
Love that. Well, and then our fifth P is just is plan, right? And you don't want to present them with a large plan, a lot of steps. Your plan is really a call to small action, right? So what's the most important next step that they need to take? So it can be something as easy as like, hey, if this sounds familiar to you, if this sounds like you, just hit reply. I'd be happy to walk you through what a real strategy could look like. Or, if you're wondering whether right now is the right time to sell, let's do a no pressure equity review. It's free, it's simple, and it'll give you real clarity on the value of your home. The key here is to make it super easy, right? Hit reply, send me a DM. You don't want them to have to click through a jot form 5 times or, make them answer 20 questions. Just make it super, super frictionless. And that way it's very, very easy for them to say yes to the next step. And remember, you're not closing the deal here. You're just starting the conversation.
Oh, that's such a good point, right? Like, I think sometimes we try to jam everything through, and the answer is like, you're just trying to get them to take the next step, and that opens the door to keep things moving. So make sure you're chunking it all the way down.
Yeah. And I would say this is so good to, because a lot of us work with like integrators around us, and we have a lot of ops people and things like that. And sometimes operations people like to get more in the weeds, and they actually prefer to be in the weeds and like answering detailed surveys with a lot of questions. And so if you've got someone like that in your world who's maybe setting some of these things up, or you've got someone helping you with social media, just keep that in mind. Like think about Amazon. Part of the reason that Amazon is just so wildly popular is they've just made purchasing things just so easy.
Yes. And it feels like they're reading your mind, that they're telling you, oh, you liked that? You're probably also going to like this.
Oh, I do.
Yes, it's powerful. And one sort of tip is that if you've got these, you're like, I already got this stuff done. We've got lots of, calls to action. And Wendy, I think you bring up such a good point that the people who actually might be executing that in your world might actually just represent a different framework of how they think.
Yeah.
And so be the tester. Go through one of your funnels. See what it's like. Go see how you respond. And I think this point, I know if you ask me to go to more than 2 pages, you've lost me. I'm not going to do it. It still feels like too much work. And so just test out. If you got some of these running and you're not seeing the results you want, take this framework and overlay it and see what's happening. So we, last one, which I'm excited about, our last P we're diving into is pleasure, which is, I saw that and I was like, oh, this is a good way to end, right? Paint the after, paint done, right? Like what happens that you took them through the pain, you've taken them, right? You said, hey, here's how we could do the very next step in this small planning call to action. So now you're going to paint want done. This is your landing. So you're going to be asking yourself when you're putting this together, what does life look like for them on the other side of saying yes to that one next step? You want to bring it full circle, show them the joy, the relief, the confidence, right? The solution to all the things that we've already just laid out. So if you're looking at a buyer, you might be saying, hey, the least that can happen is that you're going to walk away with really understanding what home ownership could look like, right? So you're going to get information. It's the same thing on the initial one. You're going to have this equity builder. Hey, you're going to get information that's going to help you. As a seller, maybe you're going to hand off the keys, take a deep breath, and let us get the home ready, knowing that you're not wasting time or money on worthless repairs. So, right, what are they going to get at the end that really is going to unlock the pain that maybe they've been feeling? You're going to help them get to the reward and help them win in the decision that they're getting ready to make.
Because we all know in sales, feelings make people act, emotions make people act. And this framework takes them through an emotion cycle. So they face reality. They acknowledge the problem because you have acknowledged the problem. And they're like, oh, yeah, that is how I feel. You've brought them out of that confusion with a plan. And then you end with they kind of experience the pleasure in hearing, okay, what could it be like on the other side? And so that's the trip you're taking them on so that they can take action.
And I imagine if you do this enough, this becomes almost like automatic when you're writing your content or something like this. I know probably for some of you are like, wait, what? I'm going to do this for every social media post. And that's not really the point of this. The point of it is if you're looking for a powerful social media post where you want your listeners or your viewers to really engage with you and you want them to take some action, then crafting your content like this is really going to be how you're going to make that happen.
Yeah, it definitely becomes second nature. Once you do it, you get reps on it. It does become easier. So don't feel, it may feel overwhelming right now, but you sit down and with ChatGPT, guys, it honestly is not overwhelming. You define your who and like who they are, who you are, who they are to you, who you are to them, and tell ChatGPT this framework, and it will spit out the beginning of great content. All the things the robots send right now still need a little humanity added.
Yeah.
But it's so fast now.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually what Jay told me is if you're looking to write content, he likes Claude instead of ChatGPT for content writing better. And the other pro tip, what I would recommend is that you train your ChatGPT to speak your language, which is not English or whatever, but it really knows and understands who you are. And the way that you do that is you input a lot of like your past writing, or I know for Her Best Life, we've uploaded a lot of our empire building podcasts and things like that. And they really understand your tone.
They do. It's like that voice note.
Yeah. Did your AI know to make crude middle school jokes in your content as well?
Of course.
I will find out later.
You will upload this episode so it knows how to speak Wendyisms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go through one more example. So you heard an example at the beginning. Let's hear another one at the end now that we know the framework. So I wrote this thinking about moving homeowners to real estate investors. I was thinking specifically about clients. So my clients that I've sold homes to, I want to move them towards thinking about real estate investing. If they're interested, I want those people in my database to like lean into this. So whether it's a targeted email or whether it's a targeted video you're sending out to your database, or just social media content that you're putting out. But I'm thinking specifically about these are my clients who I want to move to real estate investing. So first thing was perspective. So in this, I said, all right, I can still remember the day you got the keys to your home. It was such a win, and I was so honored to be a part of it. What I found is that for many homeowners like you, once that first big goal is accomplished, a new question quietly starts to emerge. What's next? Maybe you've been watching friends and family dip their toes into investment properties. Maybe you've even wondered, what would it take to own one yourself? But then the hesitation kicks in. What if I mess it up? What if it's too risky? Do I even know where to start? Totally normal thoughts, and ones I hear all the time. The truth is, stepping into your first investment property feels like a big leap. I remember when I did it, and I was terrified. Here's the good news. There's a way to start smart. With the right plan, clear numbers, and guidance tailored to you, your first investment can feel less like a gamble and more like a strategic step forward. If this has been on your mind at all, I'd love to have a quick conversation. I'll just walk you through what to look for, how to get started, and even what kind of cash flow you might expect. No pressure, just information and maybe a new vision for what's possible. Because you've already done the hard part. You stepped into home ownership. Now let's talk about ownership that works for you.
That's great. I'm totally going to steal that.
I know. I was like, I'm stealing that
that's
transcript
really,
right here.
That's fantastic. And, we always actually after the year after someone buys their house, and this might be too soon, but we always send out a copy of the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And I'm just thinking like, wow.
You send that letter with the MREA or MREI?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it as a printed letter, but if you're sending a book,
Yeah, golden. Yeah, that was my first thought. That's so good.
So the framework works for everything.
Or you could send the letter and say, do you want a free copy of the book? And we'd probably get more responses
Save
and save
yourself
money
a
on
book.
books.
Call to action.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. So good.
There's so much good gold in here. So if you're using this for sales, the more detailed that you get in your database, your avatar, who you're talking to, get super specific. This is not, you're not sending this like right when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. So get really focused on who you're talking to and speak directly to them, and really focus on how you can craft messages and emails that are going to less than 20 people, right? The segments of your database, the segments in your relationship, so that they really feel like it was written specifically for them, because it was, right? Use this. These are your prompts that can really get you started, gives you the framework to write it. We would love, maybe you're doing an incredible content, but you know somebody that could use this podcast. So feel free. We love it when you share this with somebody in your world who could benefit from continuing to build better and more effective content that converts.
Love it.
Yeah, I love that.
And let me run through the framework one more time, because at the end, so you know what to tell ChatGPT. Perspective, problem, pain, possibility, plan, and pleasure. That's the prompt you want to use for yourself or for your robot, so you can jump into the P's of writing good content.
I love it. All right, guys, we'll go out there. Yeah, build your business and even bigger life. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, ladies. Have a great week.
Bye.
Any text or materials generated by artificial intelligence, AI, should be reviewed for accuracy and reliability, as there may be errors, omissions, or inaccuracies. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.